What's good, y'all? Anthony Cordova here, and I am on the road again. And I just wanted to tell you that every setback, every failure, all the hard times are setting you up for your next big chapter, or your next chapter, or a breakthrough. Reasons why, and I can speak from personal experience when I talk about failures, believe me. So, I still truly believe, even at my age, and that is 49 years old, almost 50 next month, that I'm gonna have the greatest season of my life, and I kind of feel like I already am. Like, I'm blessed to come out of the experience I did with my shop. If you know my story, I shut my shop down in August of 2022, and it's been one of the more freeing experiences because I got away from jobs that just weren't paying anymore, and all kinds of headaches with sometimes not being able to make every last bill. More recently, at the end, I was doing okay, but it was just always a struggle when it came time to pay bills. And my rent was cheap, but I was just doing way too much for free because I'd get into these jobs and not knowing my value, not bidding the job right, and not getting any extra money for these jobs on some jobs, and then, or getting into a job and being like, oh my goodness, this thing needs like double the amount of labor for what I charge for, and the customer's not hearing me, or I didn't express myself or communicate it right, and or didn't communicate it at all because I felt guilty because I already gave him a price. And so a lot of it ended up being bad at the end, that I had to give jobs back. People came upset with me because their job was taking way too long, and I agree on some of the stuff, but some of the stuff I felt like I was righteous in doing what I did, as far as, you know, turning the job in when I was already upside down. Like, I'd be upside down on a job like almost double or more than double of what I charged them, and I'm still doing work on it, like, faithfully. But then you start talking hella shit, and then I'm just like, you know what, I'm just done with this whole thing. And the last job I did at my shop was a guy brought me a truck, and I had never met him, but he was an interior guy, and he was coming to my shop to work on a truck that I had rewired and did some body work on. And he was like kind of working on the interior while I was working on the wiring and installing like an I Did It steering column, and just doing a bunch of upgrades on this older Chevy truck. And so he was like, hey, I got this supercharged Silverado that, like, you know, I'm kind of like, I was like that guy that, like, when nobody else, and don't ask me why, it was like a challenge to me, you know, when nobody else wanted to do the job, I would like take it on for a certain amount, right? But sometimes I'd get in over my head, like on this job. You know, I didn't fully look through the truck, and so long story short, I did a cam and lifters. This thing had a supercharger on it, and who knows who put it on, you know, and who knows who worked on the car before. I didn't know any of this, right? So I go to do this job, I do the lifters and the cam and put everything back together, supercharger, everything, make sure everything's working good. I start it back up, and there's a problem with the lifter bore. So I didn't even need lifters, and the guy already knew because I had been to multiple mechanics. So he didn't end up paying me. He ended up paying me for basically parts, no labor. And I was like, dude, just at least give me like $500 for my time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you knew the lifter bore was bad because I found paperwork after the fact, you know. But I'm just not that guy that goes through people's glove boxes. But after like the problem didn't go away, I was like, there's got to be some paperwork in this car on like, or you know, you start looking, you start investigating, you know. So I go in the glove box, and sure enough, there's a work order with a full description of the lifter problem. And this guy said nothing. He said it was like, oh, you know, like I had one guy look at it, you know, he didn't know what was wrong with it. You know what I mean? And my dumb ass is over here like, oh, it's a lifter, you know, like, you know, just offering up free advice, you know. And then, of course, they contract me, which sometimes you shouldn't open your mouth whenever you're seeing, like, I already seen this guy's work was like, you know, I wouldn't recommend him to anybody. You know, the only reason he was there is because he kind of had messed something up on this particular truck, so he was repairing it. And anyway, long story short, that was like the last job when I said, you know what, like, I'm already upside down on like most of these jobs. Like, I mean, at this point, I'm out of options. I'm not going to take in any more work. These people are already kind of upset with me, you know, and the people's cars that I have now are upset, but I'm not going to take in any more work, you know. And so that was the end of my shop. But I truly believe that all that pain and all that discomfort and all that not communicating my needs and all that just going through that agony of like not making it, or like being a failure at something that you wanted for so long since you were a kid, or you thought you wanted, you know. And then comes, for me, after that, the realization that, like, do I really want to do this the rest of my life? I love it as a hobby. I love the culture. You know, I used to. I mean, I don't know. I went to a lowrider show like a month ago or whatever it was, a couple months ago. And, I mean, the vibe was different than whenever I used to go in the 90s. You know what I mean? Second part of the video, I had to change mics because the other one was terrible. I'm sorry about the audio on that, guys. So what also happened after I closed my shop down and had to redefine my goals was another reason why I think when you go through a big failure or failures in general is you gain some knowledge, you gain increased self-awareness, so you get to know what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate when it comes to business or just relationships in general. I feel like going through a business and having to navigate all the different relationships you have in business and just in life in general when it comes to any type of failures helps you get to know what you will put up with and what you won't. Like now, I would never lower my value to fit somebody else's budget. I'm not charging probably anywhere near where I could be charging, but I'm charging a lot to do what I do. And if I had to take a pay cut, I would probably just do something else or try to find something else to do. And even that for me is in the next year or so is probably getting ready to change because of hyperinflation. I mean, now you go to the grocery store and what used to be able to get for $100 was probably about 4 or 5 bags of groceries. Now it's like one bag or a bag and a half or whatever, just depending on what you're buying. So my rate has to go up as well because of inflation, and everybody's rate should be going up, as a matter of fact. Another thing is improved problem-solving skills. Like I said in another video, I've learned way more from failing at something, just diving headfirst into it and figuring it out, sometimes the hard way, by failing at it, than I have from a textbook or information that I've read. Sometimes you know by doing, or you get to know by doing, and failing sometimes as well. So that's another reason why your past failures, your past setbacks are going to set you up for success in the future. Both of those things lead to better decision-making skills. Before, when I had my shop, when I, like in the early 2000s, man, if I was like going through it, I would literally ask somebody that was less qualified than me what they would do in a certain situation, and I would like take random people's advice and just wouldn't go with my gut and be unsure of myself, and that would lead to like disastrous results. I mean, it was just crazy, the things that I would do based on what somebody else told me, because I wasn't sure of my own skills, or I wasn't confident enough, basically. But now, when I make a decision, I know in my mind of minds and in my heart of hearts that it's the right decision for me at the time. It might not always be the right decision when it comes to an outcome, but at that time, it's the decision that I'm going with. If I have to redo something when it comes to making a decision or readjust, and that has to happen. But I know in my heart and in my mind that I'm making the right decision for what I know. One of the other things is an appreciation for success. I have way more gratitude, and even if I'm not successful at something on a certain day, I take it day by day, and I'm way more appreciative of the lessons that I'm learning. Even if, like I said, I fail at something, it's a lesson. It'll help me readjust and live on to the next day to make it happen. And also, when you come off of big failure, you're gonna have a stronger work ethic, because maybe you weren't giving your all and you know it, and it was a factor in you failing at something or a setback. So stronger work ethic always seems to be the result of failing at something. This goes with relationships, with work, with anything that you try to achieve in life. All these lessons. So yeah, that's why I think that your failures will set you up for success. the last two things I wanted to touch on, and you see me looking down or glancing down, is because I took some notes, or I just wrote some bullet points down on talking points that I wanted to touch on. So the last two things are increased confidence and mental resilience. Increased confidence because you've been through the hard times. You've done the hard work, and now you know that when shit hits the fan, you can handle it. And that will set you up for success, because sometimes in anything that you do in life, you need to have like an iron will to do something. And mental resilience goes right along with that. Like I said, you know you've been down before, and you know you have that iron will that you're not going to crack, you're not going to break. You're going to keep surviving and keep thriving and do better second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. I don't care how many times you failed. You're going to do better that time around. I'm here at my destination where I have to pick up some stuff for the shop. So with that being said, I wanted to say thank you for everybody that's supporting the channel. I appreciate you all. I know, like I said before in my last couple of videos, this is my regular content, but I want to just throw these things out there because somebody needs to hear it. I wish I had somebody to tell me, or I was looking for it whenever I needed it. So that being said, I'm out.